We just had a Chinese meal together.
Yes, it was very good. Yes.
So I think your book was the most important book I ever read, and I think a lot of us here feel that. And I was saying to Iain, and it's absolutely true, I find him, despite the fact this is a pretty complicated subject, I find his writing so clear that I can read it much more easily than I can read most detective novels. Because most of the time when I'm reading, I think, wait a minute, I thought the author said this, or that's ambiguous, but this is clarity personified. So thank you for that. Now, I calculated that if we sort of generally go through the book, we have 3 seconds for every page. So we're already
very
behind.
good.
So
Yes.
basically, I want to ask you one question. Are you insane?
I thought you were going to ask me to summarise Proust.
But seriously, this is extraordinary. I mean, 10 years,
Yes.
1,500 pages. Why?
Well, quite. I often ask myself. Yes. Well, there is a serious answer, I think. I'm very concerned sorry to lower the tone, so, but I'm very concerned, as I imagine a lot of people here are, about the way the world is going. And before I go, I wanted to say something I thought was relevant about it from my experience with people and their brains. I think the things that, I would point to, that they're pretty obvious. Obviously, the top of the list has to be the destruction of our home, of the planet. But also of various strange things like destroying other cultures, destroying our own civilization, turning ourselves into machines. I'm very alarmed at the speed with which mechanistic thinking and machine-like thinking is taking over in everyday life, not necessarily in strange areas of academia or something, but actually the business of leading a life now depends on your adopting a rather machine-like way of being. And we're encouraged, all of us, to think of ourselves as slightly faulty machines, because we've got emotions and bodies and things like that, which computers are handicapped by. So all of that, and the lust for power and control, which is extremely worrying and accelerating at pace, and the means whereby to acquire it by people who have little wisdom in how to use it. So this is the sort of setting. And for those of you who've read The Master and His Emissary, you'll know that rings bells for anyone who knows about the evolution of brain systems, effectively the main two systems being those that are physically and philosophically divided, the right and left hemispheres, because one of them is designed to enable us to control and manipulate, but not really to understand. That's the left hemisphere. And the right hemisphere is the one that helps us to understand everything, however subtle and complex, in context. And I just felt that we were running so far towards what I predicted in The Master and His Emissary, a culture which was dependent almost entirely on ways of thinking typical of the left hemisphere. That was part of it.
I was thinking that the obsession with robots at the moment
Yes.
Seems to come partly because people have forgotten that we have functions other than robotic ones.
Yes, I mean, it's one of those self-fulfilling things. The more you define what is valuable as what a machine can do, the less you value the humanity. I've written a book which aims to redress this terrible, terrible, destructive, lemming-like rush towards our destruction through embracing a view that we and the cosmos are nothing but a heap of rubbish. I'm a scientist, so I'm further worried by the way in which pop science and sort of popular philosophical discourse rushes to embrace a kind of very simplistic model that of reductionist materialism, that there really only is matter, and in order to understand it, you take it apart and find what the bits are. You take it apart and find a handful of dust, and it doesn't mean anything. Well, yeah, but it's slightly like taking a wonderful piece of music and listing all the notes in a notebook in order, alphabetically. And so we've got all the notes here, but damn if I can see it means anything at all. So that's also a concern, and that is not compelled on us. That view, that intellectual simplicity, morally damaging and spiritually bankrupt way of looking at the world is not entailed on us by anything except it's not entailed on us by these. It's entailed on us by a very left hemisphere, very simple, very procedural vision of what science is and what reason is.
It's almost as though most scientists, especially biologists and psychologists, are not aware that physics changed completely in 1920.
Absolutely. And am I not right? Did you not start out reading physics at Cambridge?
No, I went to Cambridge. I got in on physics.
Oh, you got in on
physics? And then I discovered that some of the students coming to Cambridge to do physics were actually interested in it. And it occurred to me this gave them an unfair advantage. So I said, what can I do? And they said, very little, because you don't have the A-levels. You can do law. And I said, all right, I'll do law. Yeah, and I did that for 3 years and escaped immediately afterwards.
When you discovered that actually you could make people laugh.
Yes, that's right, which was the first time I'd ever discovered I had any creative ability at all, which fascinates me. That I've written this little book about creativity, and the people least interested in it are educationalists.
Yes.
I wrote to Bath, where I have a connection with the university, and I offered them twice to do talks to the students, you know, on remote talks, and never heard back from them on either offer. And what is that about? But then
I think you're too woke, probably, John. I think you're probably too woke for it. But no, I mean, going back to physics, I mean, physics is so important, and there's a strange paradox that those scientists who studied the inanimate world long ago, over 100 years ago, abandoned this mid-19th century mechanistic model, have discovered that the universe is very complex and subtle, that matter is at least as complex as consciousness, and they're probably, almost certainly, interdependent elements.
And Max Planck said that mind came first.
He wasn't the only one, no, but Planck stated, yes, that consciousness is primary. And there are a lot of physicists who certainly hold that, I mean, not a physicist